Okay, good morning. We're on 72a, second line, and we're continuing to analyze the Mishnah. Kosher mipnei anatios, mipnei beis ha'evel, mipnei beis hamidrash. So you can't harvest the barley, the crops, barley, or depending on whose opinion, um, before the Omer. But you can if it's for the purpose of clearing space, for example, around saplings so that their growth is not impeded, or to make a space for mourners to sit, or to make a base medrash. You need to clear some space in the field, so that you can do. My tama, why? Kitzir chem amar v'lo kitzir mitzvah. Kitzir chem, it's a harvesting for you, but if it's harvesting for some other purpose, like for a mitzvah, then that's permitted. V'lo yasa krichos. Mishnah said if you are permitted to harvest, you can cut down the barley, but you can't pile them up. You can't tie them into sheaves. You leave them loose. My tama to kama de'afshar lo terchinan, because um, you needed to cut it, fine, but don't continue the process of the harvest and bringing it in and processing until it's necessary, or I'm sorry, until it's permitted. Don't do anything unnecessary until it's permitted. Um, Mitzvah Omer lahavi min hakama. The Mishnah said that the Omer is supposed to come from standing grain. Taner Rabbanan, v'im takriv minchas bikurim, if you sacrifice a bikurim mincha. Ma Talmud lomar. What's it trying to say? Lefisha mitzvah Omer lahavi min hakama. Since the mitzvah is to bring it from standing grain, minayin she'im lo matzah min hakama yavim min amrin. What if there was all the grain, the barley had already been cut? Probably, illegally. But it's done. You can't find anything to cut. So you have a mina and you should bring from what's already been cut, right? So you got no choice. But does that even work? Tamalov or takriv? So that's what the Torah says, vim takriv, right? Because it already says that you're bringing it. So this extra word takriv means that in any case, like even if you can't do it the proper way, you should still bring from the loose. Davar acher, another implication of this word takriv, lefisha mitzvah lahavim min alach. You're supposed to bring from moist grain, fresh. What if there's only dry stalks available? Takriv should do it anyway, even if you can only find dry. Davar acher takriv lefisha mitzvah solikser balayla minayim shenisar b'yom kasher. You're supposed to do the harvesting of the Omer at night. What if you didn't do it at night? Can you still do it in the daytime? Takriv, we get that also from the word takriv. In other words, takriv in any case, even though you can't do it in the ideal way. V'dochas Shabbos, Mishnah said that if the day after the first day of Pesach is Shabbos, it's you still do the harvesting of the Omer. Talmud Lomar Takriv, again, Takriv Kol Shehu, Takriv Mikol Makom, Takriv Afilu B'Shabbos, Takriv Afilu B'Tuma. All of these things, all these kind of um, things that don't appear to be ideal are authorized by this word Takriv. Niksar Bayam Kasher. So he said if you cut it during the day, it's okay, it works. But we have another Mishnah that says all night is good for harvesting the Omer. And also to do the burning of the fats and the avarim, of the limbs of the sacrifices from the day. That's supposed to be done the first part of the night, but you can really do it all night. Same with the Omer. Zaklal, this is the rule called Davar Shemisvaso Kol Hayom. Anything that the mitzvah applies all day, kosher Kol Hayom. You could do it any time during the day. Davar Shemisvaso Balayla, kosher Kol Halayla. Something that is supposed to be done at night can be done at any time during the night. Katane Laila Dumi Diyom. So we have the parallel here between night and day. Ma Diyom Balayla Lo, after Laila Bayom Nami Lo. So you should deduce that, okay, so it says, so anything you can do in the day, you can do all day, but excluding, by implication, the night. So maybe the same should be true of, and it seems like the same should be true of when it says everything you can do at night, you can do all night, but by implication, that excludes the following day. So Amar Rabba, So in the case of the Omer, why do you say that? Yeah, you should have done it at night. You didn't do it at night. You can still do it during the day. Why is that? Amar Rabba lo kasha. No problem. Rabbi Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Shimon. Yeah, there are two Tanaim arguing here. Rabbi and Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya Rabbi Brisa. Haya Omer Makriv Minchas Omer V'nitmes. If you're doing the Omer and it became Tameh. Im yesh acheres, if there's more barley available. Omer lo have acheres tachtea, and bring the other. V'im lo Omer lo have pikeach ushtok. Divrei Rabbi. Like, be smart about this. Don't say anything. Don't tell anybody about the tuma. Don't alarm people. The rule is you can still be makrivit, so just carry on. That's what Rabbi says. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon Omer ben kach uben kach Omer lo have pikeach ushtok. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says either way, even if you whether you have something or you don't have something else, don't do it anyway. Don't tell anybody. Shekol Omer shenikser shlokim mitzvah possible because it's possible. Like, okay, so it's not even going to count. If it's because if you what he's saying is if you need to go and harvest more by day, then it's not going to work anyway. So you're going to carry on and do it, fine. But um, so it's the same as so it implies that you can't do that the ksira, the harvesting can't be done in the daytime. It doesn't work. Yeah, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon is also quoting a Tana who has the view of Rabbi Akiva, who, by the way, was the teacher of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon's father, Rabbi Shimon. This is not, we have the Mishnah. Rabbi Kiva, Shabbos, and Shabbos. The rule that he stated was if there's something that you need to do on Shabbos and you could have done it before Shabbos, then if you didn't, you're out of luck. That can't be done on Shabbos. The the Sover law, Rabbi Shmuel, okay, so what would be the application here be that if you were supposed to do something the Ksira Omer the night before, um, then it shouldn't be valid. The Sover law, Rabbi Shmuel, the Omer Ksira Omer mitzvah. He holds like Rabbi Shmuel that the harvesting of the Omer is a mitzvah. It's not Rabbi Shmuel Omer Macharish Rishus of Kasir Rishus. He also Ksira Omer Shehi mitzvah. He specifically refers to um, when the Torah says "B'charishu b'kasir tishbos," don't plow or harvest. Uh, that refers to optional, like discretionary harvesting. But the Omer, which is mandatory, is a mitzvah that's excluded, and therefore you can do it on Shabbos. V'isal kadatach nisar shloka mitzvah so
Can he do it
kasher.
the whole day? Erev Shabbat, he was supposed to do it at night, Thursday night, right?
No, not Thursday night, Saturday night. I mean, I'm sorry, Friday night. We're talking about a case where the second day of Pesach was on Shabbos. So as soon as it's nightfall, it's Shabbos already.
Does that ever happen?
Well, not with our calendar, but of course, if you're actually going by the Kiddush Levana, by the Sanhedrin, then of course it can happen.
The
Um,
second, so that Pesach would be the first day would be on Friday? I mean, even
yeah,
according to,
yeah, why not? I mean, like I said, in our calendar, it doesn't happen.
even, but in their calendar, would it happen? Could it happen?
Absolutely, yeah, because the calendar was set based on the sighting of the moon.
Well,
So the
I mean, we're certainly our
mhm.
calendar is essentially based on we know when the moon should be sighted. So, right? I mean, even if we don't, if the witnesses don't, even if they don't see the moon today, we set the calendar based on when the moon should be sighted. Even that's a dark night, so you don't see it. We still set the calendar. So,
Well, it's not that simple, right? I mean, uh, if it's based on that, we would never have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh because we'd always know when Rosh Chodesh is, right? Why did they have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh if the witnesses came too late?
right,
right?
exactly. So
Well, but that
they
doesn't
didn't see.
apply anymore. But they worked out a calendar based on a number of based on, but including the convenience of not having, for example, Pesach be on Friday, or Yom Kippur being on Friday or Sunday.
Well, but there's a little more to this. There are calculations. For instance, the mole. When does the because the day is not it's the month is not exactly 29 days. It's 29 plus something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have to account for it,
Mm-hmm.
correspondingly, a solar year is 365 and a quarter days. So that's why there's
Mm-hmm.
an extra day
Mm-hmm.
every 4 years. But so that it's 29 plus in certain halakim. So
Right.
therefore, the so so if it's beyond that sort of the halfway point of that in the day, then we have to add an extra day to so
No, we shouldn't, but you know that day is going to be Rosh Chodesh, so that should be the day. If you didn't know, if there were no, if you didn't have, if you were relying on witnesses and witnesses didn't show up, then um, even though you were expecting, like they knew when the moon was supposed to be, right? They knew when to expect the witnesses, but if they didn't show, then that's why they had a second day of Rosh Chodesh. Today, since we're not relying on witnesses and we know when the new moon is, we know when the Molad is, so why would there ever be 2 days?
well, I think
So
well what there is an aspect and I learned this the whole that Masechta a couple months ago, I guess,
yeah.
on Rosh Hashanah, and there is discussion is when does the moon fall based on those chalakim, and that's why calculate that's why we have one reason why we have a leap year because we're adding up those extra
Hmm.
chalakim in minutes. So if it falls, so they explain what I read is that sometimes we have to add that 30th day to account for the fact that the molad falls the beyond the halfway point in that particular month. I
Well, I
think
think you're mixing two issues,
I know
though.
I am mixing.
Yeah,
I'm discussing a few issues actually,
yeah.
but
Yeah, but the fact remains that before the establishment of the standard calendar, Rosh Chodesh could be on any, I mean, sorry, yeah, Rosh Chodesh could be on any day of the week, or the holidays could fall on any day of the week. That's quite clear. Otherwise, what's the Gemara doing discussing here at all? That this whole idea of the Omer is Docha Shabbos. Obviously, they're talking about a case where the first day of Pesach was on Friday.
we also have this concept of Adu Rosh, where the holiday Rosh
Right.
Hashanah, and so they will never fall on certain days because, for instance, Hoshana Rabbah can't be on Shabbat, so the Rosh Hashanah couldn't be on.
Right, but that's only those rules and those simanim only came to be when the calendar was established, the permanent calendar was established. They did not have those rules. I mean, they may have tried to manipulate it to fit those rules before the establishment of the calendar, right? The Basin had some latitude in terms of how to manipulate the calendar. This shows up more in terms of when the leap month occurred, right? When they would declare a leap month, right? They had the latitude of how to decide when to do that. I assume that the same thing applied somewhat to the there's all there. I don't have any proof of this, or I don't think there's any reference to it, but there are all kinds of procedural things that you could implement if you wanted to influence, when you would accept the witness testimonies from the witnesses of the moon,
Well,
right?
but you have the
Like
example.
it's really not convenient for them to come today, so we're going to take a long lunch, right, or leave early. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, like I said, I'm speculating here, but I imagine that might have been the case.
But wasn't it always the case that they constructed a calendar, for example, that Yom Kippur would not fall on Friday or on Sunday? They couldn't have 2 days of Yom Kippur,
Right.
right?
So that's what I'm referring to. I imagine, and maybe there is a source for this. I don't remember, but I imagine that they were able to kind of manipulate things so that that wouldn't happen.
I mean, that's true that certain things would occur that don't occur today.
Hmm.
The Gemara in Megillah clearly discusses that Purim could fall on Shabbat. And there's a whole discussion there in the I think the last parak of Megillah. Today,
Hmm.
Purim doesn't fall on Shabbat.
Um, okay, I don't recall, but I guess I'll
No, it
assume you're
doesn't. It
right.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't like it could be Friday, but it doesn't fall on Shabbat. Now in Yerushalayim, okay, yeah, Purim Mishulash, so it's so they work it out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. But I mean, it's a whole. I was there. I know I was there, but it's a little different. But so there are certain even at the time of the Gemara, I would think that Yom Kippur, if Yom Kippur wasn't on Friday or Sunday, because you can't have 2 days Yom Kippur, Shabbat, Shabbaton. It is Shabbat, Shabbaton. You can't have two Shabbats in a row. You can't, I think the Gemara discussed this in Beah, perhaps.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, so once that occurs, then there are other holidays that could not occur on certain days because the
All right.
calendar would
So
flow.
let's say you're right, but clearly they didn't care if Pesach fell on Friday
Uh-huh.
because we're discussing, cases where the Omer was on Shabbat. Okay.
But if Pesach fell on Friday,
Hmm.
what are we saying? We're saying the first day of Pesach was Friday.
Yeah.
So the next day was not Pesach. There was seven. That was not. It was Chol Hamoed.
Yeah, but the next day was the day of the Omer,
Uh-huh.
Machras HaShabbos, right?
Right. And
And
so
and
they
so if
were
the first day was
matir.
Friday,
They
then the
were
Omer day was
matir.
Saturday.
What's that? Right. So they were matir to bring the Omer,
Right.
so they could harvest it Friday night. Then
Right. So that's what we're discussing. And then the Gemara asks, kosher, if you want to say that b'diavad, if you didn't do the because of takriv in any case, even if it's not done exactly right, amai dachi Shabbos, then so you should have done the Omer on Friday, anticipating would be Shabbos. All right, so the ideal is to do it on Shabbos, but since it would be kosher if you did it on Friday, right, or even Thursday, then why would you then don't do it on Shabbos, right? Because
well,
it could
that's
be
too
kosher
early then.
anyways.
But isn't that too early then?
This is too early, right? But what we're saying is if you want to use the word takrif to say that, okay, you should have done it this way, but you didn't, it's still okay, it's still kosher. So say the same thing about harvesting too early. You shouldn't harvest it too early, but if you did so, it's still kosher. So isn't that preferable to being Mechal Shabbos?
Why not do it Sunday? Wasn't there a discussion earlier in the
No,
Gemara
that's too
that
late. That's too
no, wasn't
late.
there a discussion that we had a discussion of whether, and I think there's a halachic, and we learned with David last week. There are those who would wait until the 18th day in order to bring it the 18th, the night of the 18th or the 7th, right? On the set, do it the 17th, so it would do it, so it would be from the no, what is it, the night of the 17th, so it could do until the night of the 18th. I remember that. I don't remember that exactly, but.
Are you sure you're not talking about the Baitusim? The Baitusim were the ones that said it's going to be always on a Sunday, right? Not the day after
Well, that's a
Pesach, but the day.
Sadukim, I think.
Yeah,
By
the
Tusi,
Gemara the
maybe.
Gemara attributes it to the Baitusim, but
Okay,
whatever.
but
Yeah.
no, I wasn't talking about that.
Okay.
That's a different topic. I'm talking about the Omer. So that it wasn't. I'm not talking about the dafka on the first Sunday. This was that there was a discussion to do this on the night on the 17th. So into the 18th on the night of the 17th. I don't remember
Okay.
the exact details.
I don't remember that. But you'd probably remember better than me. I probably missed that day. Um, but I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This Gemara is quite clear that it's Docha Shabbos, right? And if so, then we're asking why you could have done it on Thursday. Because here we're saying that, yeah, you're supposed to do it on the day, but if you didn't do it on the day, it's still kosher, right? So why do it on Shabbos then? Do it on Thursday. It's not ideal, but maybe it's more ideal than doing it on Shabbos. Nixar Erev Shabbos. Elamida Dache Shabbos Shmami. No, Nixar Shloka Mitzvah so puzzle from the fact that we know that it does Doche Shabbos. You do harvest on Shabbos. That tells you that in fact, if you had done it on Thursday, it would be possible. It wouldn't be valid. Okay, so that's Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar um, view in opposition to the view we saw before um, that it is Docha Shabbos. Okay, for Rabbi. So Rabbi Lav Talmid Rabbi Shimon. He well, what about Rabbi? Rabbi, who said that it is Docha Shabbos, wasn't he also a Talmid of Rabbi Shimon? Um, so why didn't he like what? Why doesn't he hold like Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon? Vatanya Amar Rabbi. How do we know that Rabbi was a Talmud of Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi said when we learned Torah with Rabbi Shimon in Tekoa, hayinu malim lo shemen va'aluntis mechatzer lagag. So this is all incidental, but this is what he was saying. Where the point is that he was learning with Rabbi Shimon, and we used to bring him oil and a towel from roof to roof, from the chatzir, from the courtyard to the roof, when we gaglo parpaf, and from the roof to the enclosure, mikarpaf parpaf, from one enclosure to another, ad shanu magin l'mayan shanu rochsibo, until we got to the fountain, to the spring where we would wash, and we didn't have to pass through Rishus Harabim. So, in other words, Rabbi Shimon had this teaching that you could, in order to go to the spring and wash, you could carry your towel through these drabanan areas. So anyway, the point is that Rabbi was a Talmud of Rabbi Shimon. So Gemara says, "Several Rabbi Shimon." You know what? Um, we have another opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Titania, Rabbi Shimon, come and see how great it is to do a mitzvah in the right time. Shari hektar chalavim ve'varim ksherim kol halayla. You could do the burning of the fats and the limbs all night. And they would actually kind of jump the gun, right? They would you'd burn them immediately, and even on Shabbos, right? So here, Rabbi Shimon is saying that in order to do something in the ideal way, even if you could do it properly later, after Shabbos, you could still do it on Shabbos because that's more ideal. So here too, um, we could say that with the Omer, it says, yeah, you could do it on Shabbos, but if you have the opportunity to do it before Shabbos, then I'm sorry, the other way
Afterwards.
around. If no, really you could do it. You could do it b'diavad if you harvested before Shabbos. But since it's ideal to harvest it on the day on Shabbos, do it on Shabbos, right? So that's this Rabbi Shimon. This Mama of Rabbi Shimon indicates that even though you could avoid doing it on Shabbos, it's ideal to do it on Shabbos. So then it's fine to do it on Shabbos, even though it's on Malacha. So now the Gemara says Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, Lo Shemileh. Okay, so fine. So Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, didn't he
No,
know this?
isn't it saying that he could wait till after Shabbat?
No, it's saying yeah, you could wait, yeah, with
To
the Omer
burning
or with
them,
the Haktara, or
but
Chalav and Vemorim.
to wait till after Shabbat. You could do it. It's better to do it on Shabbat rather than waiting till afterwards.
For what, the Omer?
No, he's talking not the Omer,
Oh,
the
Haktara is
burning of the
Chalav and
fats.
Vemorim. Yeah, exactly. He's saying,
You
but
burn
Rabbi
a
Shimon
Motzei
said,
Shabbat.
but Rabbi Shimon says, even though you could wait until after Shabbat, if you want to do it, in the most in the best way, meaning like Zrizin, right away, then you could do it even though it's still Shabbos.
So similarly, could bring the Omer on Shabbat itself rather than.
Yes, exactly. Even though you could have harvested it before Shabbos, but the ideal way is to harvest it on Shabbos, so do it on Shabbos. Right? But why doesn't Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon buy that? Because in the case of Aktaris Chol and Merim, you were already required to violate Shabbos with the Shechita, right? The Shechita could certainly only be done on the day of the carbon, on the Shabbos, right? So therefore, you're already being, it's already overriding Shabbos. So all of the aspects of it can override Shabbos. But you can't say that about the Omer because there's like there's nothing that leads into cutting the Omer that has to be done on Shabbos. No, the harvesting is the first thing, right? So so therefore you would say that the reason it can be done on Shabbos is that because it wouldn't work any other time. Well, Rabbi Hachanami Dachsel Shisla Shabbos. So what would Rabbi say? Like, fine. Why would you apply that rule to the Omer? Al-Kasav Rabbi Ksirsa Omer Lo Dachya Shabbos. So clearly, Rabbi holds that harvesting the Omer isn't Docha Shabbos, right? Against the brisa that we saw. So the brisa we saw of Takriv said that it is Docha Shabbos, and Rabbi disagrees. Rabbi holds it's not Docha. The harvesting the Omer is not Docha Shabbos.
But didn't
Um,
he learn from Rabbi Shimon? We just said he learned from Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon said that it can't.
Yeah, so what's Rabbi Shimon's principle? Do something in the ideal time, even if it's on Shabbos,
So
right?
Rabbi Yehuda didn't agree with him.
No, Rabbi Yehuda agrees with him. It's not a question of ideal time. You can't do it at all on Shabbos, according to Rabbi,
But Rabbi
right?
Shimon says you can.
No, Rabbi Shimon doesn't address that specifically. Um, Rabbi Shimon, um, 1 second. Um, oh, yeah, so we have two. Um, yeah, because Rabbi Shimon says that in the first brisa that that if you that if you do it in a less than ideal way, it must be possible, right? Because since he holds that you can do it on Shabbos to make it, even if it's not, to make it ideal, but he doesn't say, what he doesn't say um, is that it's for sure valid if it's done before Shabbos. No, he must say that it's not so. It's that if you do it before Shabbos, the only way, what he's saying is the only way to do the mitzvah of the Omer when the first day of Pesach is on Friday, the only way to do the mitzvah of the Omer is to do it on Shabbos.
Right. So that's and Rabbi Yehuda was a Talmud of Rabbi Shimon, right? Didn't we just say that?
Yeah.
So he doesn't hold like his Rebbe.
Um, let's see. No, because what we get from Rabbi Shimon, or what Rabbi Shimon got from Rabbi Akiva, is um, that any malacha that can be done before Shabbos doesn't override Shabbos, right? But Rabbi is saying here that this is not a case of something that can be done on Erev Shabbos, because if you did it on Erev Shabbos, it wouldn't be valid. You wouldn't be doing the mitzvah of the Omer. So, so it is true that if you could have done it before Shabbos, then you should have done so. But this is not a case where you could have done it before Shabbos because it would have been possible.
So we're
So
saying Rebbe holds like Rabbi Shimon that it should be done on Shabbat, right?
he holds like Rabbi Shimon that yes, that he holds like Rabbi Shimon that if you could have done it before Shabbos, then you should have. But he also holds like but he also holds that this is not a case where you could have done it on Shabbos before Shabbos, and therefore you have to do it on Shabbos. The principle of Rabbi Shimon is if you could have done it before Shabbos, then do it before Shabbos. But that's the principle. But Rebbe is saying, but in this case, that principle doesn't apply because you could not have done it before Shabbos. It wouldn't have been valid. So therefore, you must do it on Shabbos. So in other
But
words, it's not a case where this idea of Rabbi Shimon applies. The idea of Rabbi Shimon is if it's if you could do it if you could do it in a less than ideal fashion and avoid Chilul Shabbos, then do it. But this is not such a case because there is no less than ideal fashion. There's do it on Shabbos or it doesn't work at all.
so so he holds that you have to do it. In this case, have to do it on Shabbat, right?
Yes.
So how do we understand the last phrase? Ela kasave Rebbe ketzirat omer lo dachya Shabbat. Seems to here Rebbe seems to hold that no, it is not docha Shabbat, and he would hold against not like his Rebbe Shimon.
where do you see that Rabbi Shimon says um, that that Ksir Somer is Docha Shabbos?
Isn't that what we just said? That he says this is not a case where you can do it early, so you have to do it on Shabbat. Isn't that what we just said? That Rabbi Shimon says this is not a case. If you could have done it early, do it early. But this is not a case, so you have to do it on Shabbat. I
But he
thought
didn't
you
say
said.
that about the Omer. He said that about Hector Chalav and Veivari.
Oh, you didn't say it about the Omer?
Nope. Look a couple lines up. Several Akidach Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya Rabbi Shimon Borei Kama Chaviv Mitzvah B'Shata Shar Hector Chalav and Veivarim Shem Kol Alayla. So that's where we get the principle. We try to apply that principle also to the Omer, but must be according to. But Rebbe would say not the same principle. That this applying this principle doesn't apply to the Omer because the Omer is not valid if you did it before Shabbos. Therefore, you have to do it on Shabbos. But if you hold that the Omer is valid, even if not ideal, if you did it before Shabbos, then you would have to say apply the same rule that Rabbi Shimon applies to Hektar Chalav and Veivarim. You would apply it to the Omer also, and not do it on Shabbos, but do it before.
So wait a second. What are you saying that Rebbe holds that that the Omer is Docha Shabbat or not? Because here it says Ella Kesava Rebbe Katsirat the Omer Lod Docha
Also
Shabbat.
Shabbos, right, right. So do it on Shabbos.
Wait a minute. It
You
says,
have to do it on Shabbos. There's no opportunity to do it before. Sure, Rabbi Shimon says if you could do it before, then do it before, but this is not such a case.
wait a minute, but it says Lo Docha Shabbat. That's what Rebbe says. That it doesn't, it wouldn't be Docha Shabbat, therefore you would not do it.
Yeah, did I
No,
misstate that? Uh, right.
isn't that what it's saying? I mean, that's the way I'm reading. Katsirat the Omer Lo
Yeah, you're
Docha
right. I
Shabbat.
said it backwards. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Right. Um, um, so Katsir Somer Lo Dachya Shabbos. Yes, thank you. Um, uh, yes, you cannot. You have to do it before Shabbos. Um,
Based on what? What?
Based on what unclear so far. We don't have a proof yet for that. Maybe we'll get to it. I forget
And Rabbi Shimon would, do we know what Rabbi Shimon says here or not?
about the Omer.
About the Omer? Or we know what
No.
he says, Hektar
No.
Chalavim. So
Yes.
there are those. I wanted to say that he, he
We
could
wanted to
have,
apply that
right.
to Ksir Omer, right? But so I said it backwards, I guess. Yeah. Then Rebbe would say, um, Rebbe would say that yeah, we do apply the Rebbe Shimon's principle. I'm sorry, you're right. I did say it backwards, but the same idea.
Well, I guess we're not because we just don't, apparently we're not applying his principle. I mean, the principle is what? That we could have done it earlier. If you can do it earlier, you should do it earlier. So that's why Rebbe would say that this is something you could have done earlier.
Yes. In fact, Rebbe would say I guess you have to do it earlier and not do
Based
it on
on,
Shabbos.
but based on
Even though
what?
the ideal time is Shabbos, even though the ideal time is Shabbos, and according to Rabbi Shimon's principle, you should do it on Shabbos because that's the ideal time. Um, but since uh, since it's not,
Why is it not Docha Shabbat?
he doesn't say why. That's his view. We haven't seen a proof yet.
That's my, yeah, that's a question.
That's important. I don't remember if we come to that or not. Let's see. Let's go on. Below, so Gemara says, does Rabbi Yehuda not say that it's Docha Shabbos? V'hatznan, Chachamim, Menachot Shabbos v'yachal mishalosh hayabah. We saw this the other day, that how much barley did you take to sift to get enough for an isar on the flour? The Chachamim say you will always use three, right? Three saw to get one isaron. Um, so, um, so in any case, like the Omer was done on Shabbos, Echad Shabbos v'Echad Chol. They did do it on Shabbos. They would bring three whether it was three or whether it was five, according to Rabbi Shmuel, but they would harvest the Omer on Shabbos, right? So Delaka Rabbi. So that Mishnah is not like Rabbi, right? Um, V'chachamim omrim. Now, later in that Mishnah, we said Echad Shabbos Echad Chol B'Shlosha B'Shalosh Kupos B'Shalosh Magalos. That there's the other things that you did were also like done on Shabbos, right? The put them in the baskets and use the sickles. Three people doing it. So again, the Gemara says to look Rabbi. Okay, so that Mishnah is not like Rabbi. And then that Mishnah continued with Shabbos Yom Lehem Shabbos Zo. Like even though it's Shabbos, are we supposed to do this as part of the ceremony? And yet they did it on Shabbos. To look Rabbi, it's the same Mishnah. I don't know why the Gemara goes through this three times. Okay. Now, Nitzar B'Yom Kasher V'Dochas Shabbos. Our Mishnah said if you had jumped the gun and done sorry, not jumped the gun, you waited too long, and you didn't do it at night, and you do it during the daytime, then Kasher V'Dochas Shabbos, and like even though it's Shabbos, you could still go ahead and do it. Man Shabbos Lo Yom Nitzar B'Yom Kasher. Rabbi, who is the one that says that who has this opinion that if it's harvested during the day, it's okay. And b'diavad, that's Rebbe. V'katani v'dochas Shabbos. It's the same phrase. It's dochas Shabbos. My love katsira. Aren't we talking about the harvesting? No, no. We're talking about dochas Shabbos refers to not the katsira, but the hakrava, which of course everybody agrees is done on the day after the first day of Pesach, whether it's Shabbos or not. Aval katsira lo. So what
Well,
are
when
you
did they
telling me?
cut it then?
Yeah. So what about the cutting? And so they
When did they do that? So
they would have
if
done it
they
on
were late,
Thursday, I guess.
delayed, what?
I guess on Thursday.
And then it sat for a day and a half or whatever, a day plus.
Yeah, but we'll see why that could be a problem. But yeah, hold that thought. Avalixira low. So what?
CHAN.
Sorry. Um, but so what are you telling me that the ksira, the harvesting, can't be done on Shabbos v'hatanya? Rabbi Yomer v'davar Moshe's Moedei Hashem. Moshe told the people of the holidays of God, Ma Talmud Lomar. What's telling us? Lefishal Lamadu Alo Talmidu Pesach Shnemerhem b'Moado. B'Moado afilu Shabbos b'Moado afilu b'Tuma, because it's only about the Tamid and the Pesach then that the Torah says do it in its right time, meaning even if it's Shabbos or even if there's Tuma. And what about the other communal offerings? Talmud Lomar, Eila Tasu Lashem Moadechem. Do these b'Moadechem in their right times. Minayin l'Rabos Omer, v'Hakari Vimo. And how do I know to include the Omer? Shtei Alechem v'Hakari Vimo, and also the Shtei Alechem. Talmud Lomar v'Davar Moshe Moadei Hashem Akasav Kava Moed L'Kulan. All the sacrifices, even if there's no animal coming with them, like the Shtei Alecha. No, sorry, even like why would you? Uh, These are all included in Vaidar Moshe's Moadei Hashem. They're all Moadim. They're all to be done in the right time, even if it's Shabbos. So Lamai, what are we talking about? Ilay Malakrava, Shtei Alechem B'nei Akrava Ninu. If you're talking about burning them on the Mizbeach, the Shtei Alechem doesn't get burned on the Mizbeach. So what's the malacha we're talking about? Must be Elapshita L'Tchina V'Harkada. Must be about the grinding of it and the various other malachos required to get grain into flour. With the classic Gabi Omer L'Ksira. And what's the corresponding malacha for the Omer is the harvesting. Because it's a Shabbos, and we see so it should be Docha Shabbos, right? So where do you get the idea that it's not Docha Shabbos? Ela Omer Lachrava Shtei Alechem Lafia. No, you know what? The Omer, what can you do on Shabbos? Rabbi could say only the burning on the Mizbeach. Shtei Alechem Lafia. What can you do with the Shtei Alechem? There is no burning, so it's the baking. Because of a Rabbi Tanur Mekadesh. And Rabbi holds that when you bake it, that's what makes it a carbon, right? That's when it becomes kadosh. And then, so if you did it the day before, then you have a problem of lina because a kachim that stayed overnight became puzzle. Okay. The Sava Rabbi kind of Kadesh what? So now you're telling me that Rabbi holds that the putting the shtei lechem in the oven is what makes them holy. Vatanya keeps the atzeres ein mekachim salechem el b'shchita. No, they don't. The bread doesn't become holy until the accompanying lambs are slaughtered. Ketzad, how does that work? Shachtan lishman v'zargdam lishman kadosh alechem. That once you did the shchita properly and the zrikas adam properly, then the bread becomes kodesh. Shchata shloshman v'zargdam shlomishman. If you did the shchita incorrectly, lo kadosh alechem, the bread doesn't become holy. So baking it clearly doesn't affect it, doesn't make it holy. Shchata lishman v'zargdam shlomishman halechem kadosh ve'eno kadosh. Divi Rabbi. And this is all attributed to Rabbi. What if you did the shchita right, but the zrika sadam wrong? Then it's like, it's unclear, right? Where you have to treat it both as kadosh, that you can't like that. It can't be downgraded to chulin, but you can't eat it either because it's not really kachim.
What do you do with
Um,
it?
Great question. Um,
And where was the bread from that they prepared or they did the tchina except the bacon? Where was it from there? Where did it stay? Did they put it? They didn't have a refrigerator. I mean, where did they keep it? Did they keep it? How they
you'd
keep
eat
it
it the
prevent
same.
it from worms getting to it? What do they do with the
I
bread for the
mean,
day
eat
for
it
the
the same
day?
day. Eat it the same day, I guess.
No, I'm saying, but if they couldn't, if that was, they couldn't do that on Shabbat. They had to wait till the next day, and they did it in advance, the katsira in advance. Where'd they keep the bread before it was baked and brought it with the korban, with the whatever korban they brought?
I don't know. Maybe they had beeswax bags or something.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, are they allowed to keep
Don't.
it overnight?
Well, don't forget these are not chametz, right? So matzah keeps pretty long.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, animals could, the rodents could, whatever it might be. I mean,
So you put it away. You put it in a
that's
jar.
what I'm just, normally you'd want to do it all the same day, right?
Yes. Right. Amar Nachman, Yitzchak hukbu v'lo hukbu kamar. So don't say that kadosh v'ino kadosh. Really, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says that baking the bread makes it kadosh. What the Brisa is saying um, is that they become like designated for the shtei alechem. So certainly, once you bake it, it's kadosh, and therefore, if it stays overnight, no good. But what the Brisa is saying is that it's only once the lambs are slaughtered that establishes these loaves, which are, by the way, since they're baked already, they're already holy. They're already consecrated, but what makes them this valid for the shtei alechem is only once you do the shechita of the of the lambs.
But
Okay,
what happens if they don't do shechita? Whatever, the lambs run away. So the bread is kodesh. So it's
right,
me'ila. You can't just eat it then. It's me'ila, right?
exactly, right.
So they have
So
to
I
burn
guess
it
that they
by
just let it
itself.
rot. Let
Or
it
let it
rot. It
rot.
can't be eaten. I guess so.
Or they
Yeah,
burn it b'makom streifam with like other
maybe.
things.
Yeah, that's yeah. Unclear, but one of those. But it can't be treated as the regular stale. Okay, Hadler Rabbi Shmuel. It's almost 8:30, so I guess we'll stop here and leave the
Where are we
Mishnah
now?
for
Oh, we finished it. We finished the parak.
yeah, we'll leave the new parak for David tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, have a good day,
The,
everybody.
the number of issues here that seem not completely resolved. I'm not sure where we hold with Rebbe though, right? And Rebbe Shimon regarding the Omer. Do we hold that you could bring it on Shabbat or not? I mean, today we're not doing it, but I mean, what
Yeah.
would be the
Um,
resolution here, the
so
maskana?
as far as Rebbe is concerned, um, one second. As far as Rebbe is concerned, um, the Ksir Omer is not Docha Shabbos. You don't do the harvesting on Shabbos or on Friday night. You do it before.
And it's early though.
It's early, but it still counts.
And why would it not count if you did it a day late?
A
It
day
seems to me from
late.
the earlier Gemara it would count, according to.
If you did a day late, then you missed the day for the. So I don't remember that earlier Gemara, but it seems to me, I would think that um,
But
that
people are
if you
not going to
didn't
go out and
if you
eat
didn't
that.
late, you missed the day of the Omer. There's no, I don't remember any. I mean, maybe I may be mistaken. Maybe there's something that discussed this, as you say. But as far as I can remember, there's no there's no dispensation to do the Omer late, a day late.
But they're not going to eat. A pepper. This person is not going to eat. If once you bring the Omer, one can eat chadash, right?
Hmm.
So they're not going to go out and buy. I mean, then I mean stores, whatever. They're not going to the market on Shabbat to buying new bread. So they can if they eat it on Sunday. So what's the nafkamina here if they bring the Omer the next day? In this case,
Well, if you didn't bring the carbon of Shabbos on Shabbos, would you bring it on Sunday? Don't think
no,
so.
but that's a different thing. That's a korban tamid. Here we're talking about the ability to eat chadash. So if you can't, so you wait the
So,
next
so now you're
day.
asking a different question. What happens if they didn't do the Omer sacrifice? Can you eat Chadash? So I think the answer is yes, um, but you have to wait until after the whole day, right? If the day went by and the Omer wasn't done, so so I think you can. I may be wrong here, but I think you can still eat the new crop now. But it's not ideal, but I think that's the case.
If they didn't bring it, so they could eat after
But it's
night.
not like, how about bisman hazeh, right?
You could wait to
How
the
could you
next day.
ever eat? How could you ever eat the barley?
Okay, so till the night passes. So in this case, once it's Motzi Shabbat, then they can go on. If they didn't bring it, they could go eat it the next day.
Yeah,
Then, so what's
right.
the
But
nafkamina?
well, the nafkamina is how we're not even talking about the effects of making it of of the matir. We're just talking about the details of how you do the omer. There's still a mitzvah, even if it was not a matir for eating the new crop. There'd still be a mitzvah to bring the sacrifice to bring the omer on this day after the first day of Pesach, right? So we're not talking here about the details of whether you can then eat the new crop. That's a separate issue. We're just talking about do the mitzvah of the Omer in the right time, on the right day.
So if they bring it early on Thursday,
Hmm. I think
then
that wouldn't count either.
so what isn't that what we're talking about? Bringing it Thursday night to
No, we're
Friday?
talking about the ksira, we're talking about the harvesting, right? There's no question that the korban has to be done on the right day. But we're talking about the harvesting, whether the harvesting can be done in advance. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, so then he would still have to wait until then on Shabbat he could bring the Omer.
Yes, right.
Uh-huh.
Right? What Rebbe says was Ketziras HaOmer Lo Dachya Shabbos.
Right. So
Yeah.
therefore they would do the Katsira Thursday night
Yeah.
or Friday morning.
Well, Friday was Yontif already, right? So probably
Oh,
not.
right. Friday.
So
Okay,
Thursday
yeah.
day, I would say Thursday during the day. Or maybe Wednesday night, whatever, but
Well, that's even there.
without
So,
Chilul Shabbos.
okay, so then they wouldn't bring the Omer and they bring the Omer on Shabbat then.
Right.
So it could be waiting 2 days.
Could be. Yeah.
So there would be no matir to eat Chodesh on Thursday morning then
Correct.
because he
Correct.
didn't bring the
Definitely
Omer
not.
yet.
Exactly right.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good day. Thanks for the spirited discussion.
All right. Thank you.